Right, okay, so I'm Sajjad Awan. I led on the technical review of RB209, and I was the technical lead on the Arable section, which is section 4 now in RB209. So in today's talk, I'm only going to talk about 3 sections, which are section 1, section 2, and section 4. And only go through key changes. Another important thing, on every single book that we have, now we've got 7 sections of this, I'll go through this, but if you go on page 5 of each of these books, you will see the key changes. So if you want to talk to your agronomists or your advisors, or if you want to know what changed, you go on page 5 in the first instance and you will find further information what has changed from the previous RB209. So I'll go through, talk is quite simple to be honest, means I'll talk about the revision, what we've done and why we've done so. Then we talk about the structural change, what has changed as in terms of structure and in terms of content. And then what hasn't changed in RB209 and how to access it. So that's the structure of the talk. It's only, I'm afraid, 15 minutes. Again, if you want to talk to me, come and talk to me on RB209 stand. So before we done any changes to RB209, we did a review. So the previous RB209, if you remember, it was 1 book. This one here, 8th edition, and that was done by DEFRA in 2010, published in 2010, but the data used was only from 2008. So beyond 2008, there was no data included because they had already done 8th edition. Now, ADAS led the review, they pulled the information, and as you can see, there was so much of research done, nearly 11 million pounds of worth of research being done already between 2008 and 2015. So they did a really good job, pulled the data together and they analyzed. Now, another important thing to mention here is that we had 3 technical working groups. One was Arable, the other one was horticulture, and the third one was livestock, grass and livestock. So these technical working groups, they had agronomists, they had people from the fertilizer industry, we had people, good representation from the Environment Agency as well. So we covered, there were 38 partners around the country. You name anybody here who deals with fertilizer, they were engaged with us, fully engaged. It's not the matter that they were not updated with anything. Even Environment Agency, they were fully updated throughout the process. So ADAS led the review, they got the information. If you want to know more about these reviews, they are available on AHDB website. You can download any of the sections. So there will be 3 reviews, as I mentioned before. You can download all of those. Now, most of you would have already realized that actually this 1 book has split into 7 sections. Now, why did we do so? Some people think that actually it is quite useful. Others, they think that actually it's not so useful because if you're an agronomist, you might be using all 7 sections. But we considered our levy pairs, they were our top priority. And most of our levy pairs, what they use are whether section 4 or section 3 or section 5. So there's section 3, 4 or 5. But section 1 and 2 are mandatory. If you are using RB209, you must use section 1, which is principles. That contains all the science behind the recommendations. The second one is organic material. Yeah, this one here. They're all color-coded. And this contains most of the information that we could pull together during the review, and we have updated these values in this section. And the fourth one that I'm going to talk about is section 4, which is Arable section. Now, these are, if I show you quickly, means most of you would have heard about the app, but it's still, means the signal is not good enough, but it's downloadable. And it's only, at the moment, only available from Apple. So I don't know how well you can see. So that's the app here, RB209. And here, the first page that you can see is the front page of section 1. So this section, you come up with registration. The registration's only meant for, it's not to bug you all the time, it's just to give you an update. Every time we receive more information, straight away we would put the information in digital version, and as soon as we've got more data available, we'll update the whole guide and publish the new PDF version. So I'm going to skip the registration. You can see all 7 sections here. So they are available, and we promote, because you don't have to carry all 7 sections physically, but you can have them in your iPad. These are quite convenient, and also they're navigable. So if you want to go from section 1 to section 2, you click the link, you go to section 2. You want to come back, you click back, and you come back all the way. So they are quite convenient to use, and that's the reason that we are promoting this version. So digital is the future, and that's why we're promoting it. Now, another reason for splitting these guides into 7 sections is that publishing the whole book, as you can imagine, costs a lot. For this, for example, I want to update section 4. I've got a few projects running now. So if I want to update this, the plan is that I will do update in 2019. It will be available in 2019. A new version of this guide will be available. So I don't have to spend a lot of money. And that's the reason we split it into 7 sections, so they are easily publishable, easily manageable. Right, okay, so moving on. The key changes now. What we've done in section 1, this is all the science behind it. We've reviewed all the information. What has changed? It's gone more concise. If you go back in the old book, you will see that if you're on page 91, they would ask you go page 254. If you are at page 254, they would ask you go page 160. So we have removed all that. So it's more logical. You can quickly navigate through the book. You don't have to worry, especially if you're doing facts training. Really, really important. It's quite easy. Removed repetition as well. Highlighted sulfur deficiency. Now this is quite a simple table. I'm not sure whether you are able to see this. On the basis of the soil structure and the rainfall, we have given the information. So if you've got sandy soil and you've got moderate to high rainfall, you are in high sulfur deficiency area. So it's a simple table and easy to comprehend as well. So these are a few of the most important things that we updated in section 1. In section 2, now there are quite a few things that actually changed in section 2. So because of lack of time, I can't go through one by one everything, but you can see the availability of sulfur we given. This is the new information. Sulfur has been, because it's a key component now, sulfur deficiency is quite common. Now we got more tables, new tables on sulfur. Potassium content, actually they've been reduced. What happened is that we analyzed the data. The new evidence shows that potassium is not available as much as we previously considered, but the changes are quite small. It's not a massive difference, but if you're applying 30 cubic meter of slurry, for example, it's going to make some difference. So we updated that one, reduced the potassium content. Poultry manure, another one. What we done, there used to be several layers, broiler and turkey and duck manure. We pulled them together, we call them poultry manure, because they were not significantly different. Analyzed the data statistically, they were not different. We put them together in one table. P and K content of pig slurry, again reduced. There are not massive changes, but they are changes. So you need to consider those. So digested liquid, we realized actually not being used widely. So we altogether. So it's not there now. That is section 2. Section 4, a lot has changed in section 4. This is the key one. Updating nitrogen rates, adjusting nitrogen rates for expected yield. I'll come back to it in a minute. Change nitrogen timing, so especially in winter feed barley, we've got a project with ADAS, we got the results, and we have advised to apply nitrogen a little early. So if you need more information, come back and talk to me at our stand. Guidance on measured soil mineral nitrogen. We're given, for example, field assessment method and measurement method. We're given better guidance there. And changes to P and K index build-up options, we're given those index build-up options as well. If you want, thinking about building up your indices, you can do that as well. Now, recommendation for soils. For winter wheat, what we have recommended, this is the recommendation that for light sand soil, you can apply 20 kilo more nitrogen per hectare. For winter feed barley, increases of 10 to 20 kilo depending on your circumstances. Light sands and sill soils, all SNS indices, you apply 10 to 20 kilo more nitrogen. And for shallow soils at SNS index north, you again apply, top up by 10 to 20 kilo more nitrogen. Oats, this is the biggest, the largest change that we've seen so far is in oats. If you grow in oats, you can see we have the evidence that if you apply 40 kilo more nitrogen per hectare, you still see a curve which is still going up. We need to do more experiments to find more information, but for the time being, we are recommending that you can apply 40 kilo more nitrogen in oats, and they will still give better, better response. Triticale, same as nitrogen, but if you grow in triticale, you got to consider the price. If it's not the grains are not giving you the good price, then probably I wouldn't apply too much of nitrogen. And again, if there is a lodging risk, again cut back on your nitrogen application. And that's so for triticale, the recommendations are exactly the same as winter wheat. Now, here is the big one. We talked about this several times in articles. Some of you would have read the articles on the expected yield. Now, this is really, really crucial to understand that not everybody can apply nitrogen and they find that they had a response. It won't work like this. You have to have the evidence available that you consistently get in higher yields. This is only for those, if you're renting the soil, your fields or the farm, and you haven't got the evidence, wouldn't bother. You must have the evidence available that consistently you are getting higher yields, higher than average. You got to consider all these factors, the limiting factors. The structure of the soil is absolutely crucial. Sometimes the autumn is the weather is so wet, the fields are not prepared properly. You can't simply think at the start of the autumn that you can expect 10 tons a hectare. You got to consider all those factors before you start planning to apply more nitrogen. So these are the factors, the limiting factors that you need to consider. And this is what we suggested. This is what we suggested. If you have got winter wheat 8 ton per hectare average, you can apply up to 13 tons. Every time you get half a ton more, you apply 10 kilo more nitrogen, up to 13 tons. This is what we suggested. 10 kilo for every half a ton. For a ton, that is 20 kilo. For winter feed barley, 6.5, that's the average. And we say that exactly 10 kilo more for every half a ton, up to 11 ton. And for spring feed barley, from 5.5 ton, which is average yield, you can apply up to 9 ton per hectare. So these are the suggested rates, but you got to consider, again I would say, you got to consider your conditions on your farm, in your field. Then you can change accordingly. So probably here, this is too wordy. You don't have to read that. I'll just simply explain. So probably reading it would be hard. So what you need to do is, first of all, you consider, every farmer, every advisor does it, you got to find out your SNS index, soil nitrogen supply. So if you have worked out clearly how you measure your soil nitrogen or you assess your soil nitrogen, that would be first step. Do it properly. Once you're happy with that, I go to the second step. Then I would say, calculate expected yield. This is really, really important. What is my expectation? Right at the beginning, what do I say? I say 16 tons. No, it doesn't work like this. So here is a recommendation. So take 5 previous seasons. 5 seasons. Remove the anomalous ones, too high, too low, and stick with 3, the one that you think are average. Take the average of those 3, that is your expected yield. It's not at the beginning of the season that you say it's 12 ton or 15 ton. It wouldn't work, unfortunately, and we are harming the environment. So have to be really careful. So get the average of 3 after removing the anomalous ones. Then for every ton or every half a ton, above or below, readjust. So it's not going upwards only, it downwards as well. So if your expected yield is 7.5 ton, you got to reduce by 10 kilo every half a ton. So you got to reduce it accordingly as well. Now, important step, go back in your field. If you're an advisor, if you're a farmer, go back and assess what the situation is. So you thought in autumn that this is what I think I'm going to have. You went back into your field and actually there was a lot of black grass. There was some sort of disease. There was drought. I have to readjust my plan, so I got to change my plans here. So clearly then, assessment is absolutely crucial, especially during spring season. So once you assessed and you're happy that actually it's going according to plan, nothing has changed, then you go ahead and change accordingly. Ramp it up or bring it down. And then, importantly, learn from what you've done. So you applied 20 kilo more for every ton. You got to assess. So I applied more, whether actually was it worth it or wasn't it worth it? So you got to reconsider and learn from your experience. Mm-hmm. And this is how we promote. What we suggest now is that you can adjust for yield in winter wheat, winter feed barley, and spring feed barley, but you got to consider all the limiting factors and everything else and then make appropriate decisions. It's really, really important. Now, what hasn't changed? So we say that soil structure is absolutely crucial. So you must consider the structure. That's your soil. That's the basic thing that you must consider. Make the soil analysis. Now in our new RB29, you will see that we're given much better guidance compared to the last one. So especially with the min-till. Lots of people go into min-till or no-till. We're given guidance for that one as well. So use that information from chapter 1. Maintain right pH for nutrient uptake. Use sulfur if needed. And make good use of organic materials. Organic materials section is really important again. We updated almost every single table. And we're given examples as well. So if you're not sure, they're very easy examples to go through, and hopefully that will make sense. Now, how to access it? I've already shown you the app. Hopefully it's available pretty soon. Not today, maybe end of the week, but it will be available, downloadable from our website. For AHDB RB209 is available there. And the last option is that you take a hard copy. But hard copy, all 7 sections, really big. A lot of them you got to put them somewhere in your home. So we would promote that you go with the digital.